Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling and the latest edition here of the top 10 that we're doing on the show. Here each and every week, we've been talking about the top 10 matches, sometimes top 10 wrestlers, sometimes top 10 events. But before we get to the top 10 Royal Rumble matches that are non-Rumble matches, want to first mention, of course, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Two Man Power Trip. Check out the website, patreon.com/TMPT Empire, and go to TeePublic, tpublic.com/stores, and get the store/TMPT and get your latest and greatest two-man power trip gear, Hogan era gear, and Era of the Hitman gear. Of course, Era of the Hitman coming soon by ECW Press. Now, today here on the show, talking about the top 10 Rumble matches, and we're talking about the non-Rumble matches. So these are matches that happened during the Royal Rumble pay-per-view that didn't actually happen during the main event Royal Rumble over the top rope match. These are the singles matches, mostly, that happened during the event, sometimes main evented, sometimes did not main event. But these are some of the greatest matches of all time. There were some epics here. There's no doubt about it. And of course, before we kind of get into some of the top 10, of course, as usual, we're talking about some of the honorary mentions, a part of the group as well. And first and foremost, the first honorable mention I want to talk about was 2001. The Royal Rumble was a WWF championship match, technically. I guess you could say a World Heavyweight Championship match between Chris Jericho and The Rock. Chris Jericho, of course, gets the big win here and really cements his WrestleMania main event versus Triple H that year. But great match. Kind of unpredictable to a certain extent because Jericho, yes, while he did beat Rock and Steve Austin the same night of Vengeance to be the undisputed champion and kind of the both champion there. One of those interesting kind of caveats and one of those interesting things to look at about this is, was Jericho really going to get the big push? Was he really going to get the WrestleMania main event? And he does. Spoiler alert for anybody that's never seen WrestleMania 18. And he does get the match against Triple H and kind of lays down the law for a big feud between those guys as well. When you look at what's going on here and you want to talk about kind of getting the big push and who's going to be main eventing WrestleMania, the next one I wanted to talk about was Royal Rumble 2004, because a lot of the times the guys that are the champion at Royal Rumble will eventually be in the main event of WrestleMania. Not all the time. And this was one of those instances where you thought that because this match didn't really have a finish, of course, talking about Triple H versus Shawn Michaels, Royal Rumble 2004, the precursor to WrestleMania 20, you kind of weren't sure if Shawn Michaels was going to move on to that WrestleMania or not. And kind of, begrudgingly at the time, because Chris Benoit wins the Rumble, you're thinking, wow, Benoit versus Triple H can possibly headline WrestleMania. But then they throw in Shawn Michaels there as well, and it's just a three-way dance. And it ends up being an epic match at Madison Square Garden. Of course, Chris Benoit ends up winning the WWE World Heavyweight title that night, defeating Shawn Michaels and Triple H. But just one of those great matches that you weren't really sure where they were headed or where they were leaning to as far as the main event of WrestleMania 20. And obviously, ended up working pretty damn well, I got to be honest. And that match was actually way better than kind of expectations. Of course, three capable workers, Benoit and Shawn Michaels, obviously top tier, but that was a great one as well. So I got to throw in Royal Rumble 2004. Also, match I've talked about before, talking about John Cena, Royal Rumble 2015, Brock Lesnar defeats and defends his WWE World Heavyweight Championship against John Cena and Seth freaking Rollins that day. Of course, Brock retains the title and heads to WrestleMania that year as well as one of the headliners. This is a great match. I talked about this in one of Cena's top 10 matches of his career. I obviously talked about it multiple times on the show. Just kind of was there live for it. I thought it was really, really excellent. One of those near 5-star matches, but doesn't quite make the top 10, even though I absolutely love the match and I thought it was great. Just goes to show you what else is on this list that is going to be an excellent match. When you look at this list, I want to know, what did I hit on? What did I miss? What did I should have, brought up on this list, or what should have been on the list? And really kind of what isn't on the list, maybe that should have made it. So please hit me up in the comments, or as you love to do, email and message me as well, and let me know what you think as far as the list. So number 10, let's start it off here. The top 10 best non-Royal Rumble matches in Royal Rumble history. Number 10 is the infamous I Quit match between The Rock and Mankind, the WWF World Heavyweight Champion at the time. This was a great feud. Maybe you could say that they changed the title too many times, but it didn't seem to affect the ratings or the pay-per-view buy rates. They seem to have really worked. And obviously, they did go back and forth quite a ways as far as who's winning the title, but great chemistry. These two were always off the charts together. The Rock wins in controversial fashion. This I Quit match. He defeats Mankind, who earlier in the night, if you remember outside the Heat, was saying, I quit, and Rock used that to his advantage and handcuffed him behind his back, put the microphone in his face. Of course, Mankind never said I quit, but you heard it over the loudspeaker, so he thought he quit. And The Rock ends up defeating Mankind for the WWF World Heavyweight Championship. He, of course, goes on to WrestleMania versus Steve Austin. Mankind, who was rumored to be a part of that main event, maybe in a three-way dance, is not a part of it, but technically speaking, was the referee who counted the three in their main event of WrestleMania 15. I was first row for that one. That one was a hell of a main event there for WrestleMania. But The Rock gets the win over Foley in that chapter of their great feud in 1999. Number 9. Let's go back to Royal Rumble 2014. A great match between two guys that you would kind of think was kind of an odd pairing, or, kind of odd that they were put together. But if you remember, he was Daniel Wyatt for a little bit. Of course, I'm talking about Daniel Bryan versus Bray Wyatt, Royal Rumble 2014. Really kind of one of those interesting things when you kind of look at it and you kind of look back. You're like, man, that was odd. Were they doing that as some sort of weird punishment for Daniel Bryan? Did they think that was going to work? Did they think that was going to de-push him? You kind of don't know the logic, but it all kind of worked out in the end. And it really kind of set off Daniel Bryan into a trajectory, which I don't think they realized he was going. And he even said CM Punk was due to get a push before him, and several others he thought were in line before him. But man, did he catch fire that year. That was organic. It was lightning in the bottle. The yes mania, if you will, the yes chants were off the charts. Just unbelievable stuff from Daniel Bryan in that year. And really the year before, and, up until getting injured, he was on fire. He was basically on top of the world. He was the best wrestler in the world. And a lot of people say, Bray Wyatt didn't have too many great matches, so to speak, but not a great in-ring worker. It was more about the I guess you would say the sports entertainment aspect of it, or the charisma and the promos and everything else. But in ring, he was not as strong. But whenever he wrestled Daniel Bryan, they really did tear down the house. Kind of shows you how great Daniel Bryan is. And it shows you that Wyatt had something there. He was carryable. But Daniel Bryan definitely carried him to a great match here. Maybe the best match of his career as far as Bray Wyatt is concerned. Just one of my favorite Royal Rumble matches, and a great match. And it's interesting, Wyatt wins. Daniel Bryan goes on to WrestleMania, defeats Triple H, defeats Randy Orton and Batista in the main event, and wins basically the WWE and the World Heavyweight Champion. He becomes the undisputed champion of the world despite losing in this match. But losing this match kind of shows you that it almost seems like that's what they thought of Bryan. They maybe didn't think of much, and they thought more of Wyatt. So kind of a fascinating look back when you think about just the trajectory of Daniel Bryan and Bray Wyatt in their careers, so to speak, at that point. Great match. Next up, we're going back to 2001. Chris Benoit versus Chris Jericho in a ladder match for the WWF Intercontinental Championship. Man, this is one of those matches where on paper, and of course, these are two of the best workers in the world at that point, you just know it's going to be good, and you know that it's going to be one of those excellent matches. But you thinking to yourself, are they going to let them be them? Are they going to let them kind of, give them enough time and let them kind of just go off, if you will, and really steal the show? And Chris Jericho defeats Benoit to win the Intercontinental title in this great ladder match. Match was about 19 minutes, so they did give it a hell of a lot of time. Excellent match. Definitely go out of your way. They do some creative things with the ladder, really using it as a weapon a lot of the time too, which I definitely enjoy. I think that was great. Maybe a different aspect of the ladder match in WWE as far as what we saw prior to this with, the Hardys and Edge and Christian and the Dudleys, just kind of a different way. This is honestly more to me more enjoyable than those matches as well. Really felt like a struggle. Really felt like a fight with these two in this ladder match, and obviously two of the best in the world at that point. Next up, 2007, another match we talked about before. If you go back into the archives and go back onto the YouTube channel and check it out and look up John Cena's best matches, and this is definitely way up there on the list and one of my favorite Royal Rumble matches. It's John Cena defending the WWE World Heavyweight Championship against MAGA. And of course, John Cena gets the win in this last man standing match. Hell of a match. Just one of those matches where you kind of think like maybe you were going to push Umaga, but of course Cena's their guy, and they were going in that direction, and obviously Umaga was being built up as that ultimate dragon that he would have to slay in order to basically overcome all the odds and be that ultimate babyface, and that's what Cena was to the WWE at that point. And Umaga was such a great heel and such a great worker. He kind of, in many ways, brought out some of the best in Cena. They had two matches that month. Both were great. This one was even better than the New Year's Revolution match. Just one of those things where sometimes, the guy maybe kind of unheralded, or maybe he wasn't getting a huge push, or maybe deserved to get a good push. And then you put him up against the big dog in the company, the number one star, their number one attraction, and they really can just set it off. Feel like Cena had a lot to prove, and I feel like Umaga had a lot to prove in this one. They get very creative, very violent, and very cool finish as well, as John Cena defeats Umaga to retain his WWE World Heavyweight Championship. If you haven't seen this, and you're kind of thinking like, wow, Cena's done, I want to go back and watch some matches in his career. This one, and maybe one that I'm going to mention a little bit later, those are definitely some ones that I would definitely want to watch if you're kind of softening a little on John Cena. Next up, let's go to 1993. It's a WWF title match, and it's one of Bret's basically kind of first big feuds as he's champion. I know obviously he had a kind of a mini feud with Shawn Michaels at the Survivor Series 92. He had a little feud with Ric Flair, but really this was kind of developing into a big feud for him. I know Razor Ramon, technically speaking, was a rookie here in the WWF at this point. So Bret is going to put his working boots on for sure. Obviously, Scott Hall, a.k.a. Razor Ramon, is more than capable and a great hand, but kind of, obviously a little bit younger at this point, maybe a little bit green, if you will. So not that Bret's carrying him, but, obviously Bret is leading this match for sure. This is a great one back in Royal Rumble 93. Royal Rumble 93 is weird because Hogan's on the roster, but he's not a part of the show. So it's almost like an experiment to see what they can be and what they can do leading up to WrestleMania without Hulk Hogan. And Bret kind of took that very personally and really took the ball pretty well as far as, they drew a pretty good crowd. He's going to have an excellent match. But the Royal Rumble itself, I think, was a little lacking. Maybe Yokozuna winning it, again, another kind of rookie, if you will, in WWF, getting a big push. So times were changing there in 93 in the WWF, and Bret was obviously the leader of this new generation, and he was the World Heavyweight Champion. Bret defeats Razor Ramon here in a absolute great match. Definitely go out of your way to see this. They will have a rematch at King of the Ring as well, which is another great match, and just shows you the great chemistry that Bret had with Razor, and quite frankly, the great chemistry that Bret had with pretty much every one of his opponents. Next up, go to an event that I was at Madison Square Garden, Royal Rumble 2000, and we're talking about the street fight between Triple H and Cactus Jack for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. This is a great match. This is one of like the kind of the litmus test to me. Like, let's see what Triple H has. Yeah, they're giving him a big push. Does he deserve it necessarily at this point? I don't know. It seemed like a lot of politics were involved. His relationship with Stephanie, obviously, his relationship with Vince all these years, and kind of being part of the booking committee, maybe albeit secretly, or being a part of all these production meetings. And was Triple H the guy? Did he deserve to be the champion, or was he getting the push because Austin was injured and The Rock didn't necessarily need the title? So it's one of those things where, yes, you're trying to create a new star. Yes, you're trying to create your next big villain, your big heel, and you're trying to create basically your next big moneymaker. Was Triple H the guy? I think Foley, who was an awesome draw, an awesome talent, awesome wrestler, could really work with anybody and kind of carry guys, shockingly so, given his style. But man, he turns into Cactus Jack. The crowd's really into it. They buy it. Triple H sold it really well that he was kind of scared of him. But man, this is a great match. They go all out. They really, really just absolutely kill each other here. And Triple H kind of showed a different level of his game. He really upped his game here in this street fight, and Triple H wins. He defeats Cactus Jack and kind of further cements his legacy just as far as being a guy that can, run with the ball a little bit here. He's not the guy, but he's kind of the guy who works with the guy, and that is a great spot to be in, and especially during the Attitude Era, especially during, the Rock Austin era, if you will, in the WWF. So Triple H, kudos to him. Great match here. And, of course, Foley, always good, especially at this point in his career. He's actually winding it down a bit here in 2000. So he's putting Triple H over big time and really getting H over as the next big heel in the WWF. Next up, got to throw this out there because I talked about Cena before, but it's a John Cena and AJ Styles from Royal Rumble 2017. Man, this could be John Cena's best match. I know if you go back to my list of Cena matches, I know I had it up there as the best match. It damn well could have been and maybe should have been in a lot of people's minds, but this was great. AJ Styles kind of was owning the feud, so to speak. He was really one of those guys was like, wow, Cena beating everybody. Can he beat AJ? He hasn't really been able to beat him in the one-on-one match, and it's been hard sledding. And even on the microphone, and I believe Cena has mentioned this in interviews and stuff, he kind of couldn't find things to really rip AJ about because he was kind of the perfect wrestler. He said he was the best wrestler. Couldn't really find anything. So AJ, to his credit, was kind of owning him on the mic, which you hadn't seen too much before. Maybe a little bit with The Rock, a little bit with Jericho, and CM Punk, a little bit of guys here and there. But AJ, it was kind of almost shocking. It was surprisingly. He was better than him in the ring and was better than him on the mic. So kudos to AJ, who's obviously one of the greatest of all time. Legitimately, Cena, I don't know about that, even though that's a nice little tagline to give him. But got to give him his due here. This was a great, great match. Cena, AJ Styles, they went all out. Really kind of showed a new level of Cena here, even more so than the Umaga match. It was like, wow, maybe Cena can work a little bit. AJ made him look like $1 million. This is a great, great match. It definitely deserves to be on this top 10 list. AJ Styles loses to John Cena. John Cena wins the WWE title here at Royal Rumble way back there in 2017. Next up, I absolutely love this match, and so did the crowd, obviously. Here, we're going back to 2003, Chris Benoit versus Kurt Angle for the WWE Heavyweight Championship of the world. Man, this is a burner. Angle and Benoit always had tremendous chemistry. Man, Benoit had great matches with everybody, right? Angle had great matches with everybody, but for some reason, whenever these two guys got together, it was just like, boom, fireworks. It was just even better. These two had unbelievable chemistry. They were always able to work just tremendously together. In one of those things where, I don't know, I just felt like their chemistry was just off the charts. You kind of thought Benoit might win here. Angle ends up pulling it out. He wins. He beats Benoit. He retains the WWF title. It's one of those things where, though, Benoit wins in defeat. The crowd goes absolutely nuts. Just absolutely think that it's one of those things where he was getting the respect chant, but this is when the crowd really started to show him a tremendous amount of respect and started to be like, wow, this guy's the best wrestler in the company. This guy might be the best wrestler in the world. They're giving him respect chants. They're really, really clapping and cheering for him. When everybody's out, he's left alone in the ring, and the crowd is just really behind him and cheers him. And I really think that led to him getting the title basically the following year at WrestleMania 20 in Madison Square Garden. I think this was kind of the litmus test. This was the thing that started off when the crowd really started showing him a tremendous amount of respect. Next up, Ultimate Warrior defending his WWF World Heavyweight Championship at Royal Rumble 1991 against Sergeant Slaughter, the Iraqi turncoat, the heel of heels here. Man, I loved it. The crowd is absolutely nuts. Piper's nuts. Monsoon is nuts. There's just a fervor here. This is crazy. Sherry Martel's interfering. Macho Man Randy Savage is interfering. This is so great. And you would think like, oh, Slaughter Warrior, I don't know how great it is. The crowd just makes this 10 times better. This is just, and the WWF title being defended for the first time at the Royal Rumble, it was just intense. The huge pay-per-view here. We're building up to WrestleMania 7. You kind of didn't expect Warrior to lose. I remember I was absolutely floored, absolutely shocked about the finish of this one, but Sergeant Slaughter defeats the Ultimate Warrior with the help of Macho Man Randy Savage and Scary Sherry there to win the WWF Heavyweight Championship. Of course, that would then lead into the Hogan Slaughter feud. Man, just unbelievable when you're looking at this one and looking back, man. What an event. If you just want to go back and just listen to the crowd, this is awesome. It's intense. I love it. But Slaughter wins the title over the Ultimate Warrior in the basically penultimate here, the second greatest Royal Rumble match of all time. And that would only leave one. And of course, it had to be the Hitman, Bret the Hitman Hart. And we're going all the way back to a Royal Rumble 1995, where he is going to go one-on-one with Diesel. When you're looking at this point, this was a litmus test for Diesel. They want to see, can Diesel work? Can Diesel carry a main event? Can Diesel be the world heavyweight champion that we know we think he can be? He's got the size, he's got the look, he's got the charisma, but how is he in the ring? Let's put him in there with the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be, and let's see how good he is. Let's see if he can handle this one. And basically, Diesel defends his championship against Bret, but it ends in a draw, ends in a no contest there. There's going to be no winner, which kind of deflates the crowd, but that's why it's not the main event, if you will. That's why the Royal Rumble match is the main event, and I think that's kind of why that they did that, because there wasn't going to be a finish. They were keeping Bret strong, and they were obviously keeping Diesel strong to a point as well. But obviously, they've got plans for Bret, they've got plans for Diesel, and they have plans a little bit down the road for the rematch here. So, the ref gets unconscious. Michaels, Jarrett, Rhodey, I mean, everybody comes to the ring. Owen, Backlund. The ref can't control it. He ends up calling for the bell. He declares a draw, and Diesel retains his championship. Obviously, Diesel will go on to face Shawn Michaels there, WrestleMania. Bret versus Backlund, kind of a weird one, and maybe Bret deserved better there. Just as far as the match, it was a little wonky. It was a little weird. It's not exactly what we all had in mind when we think of Bret Hart and WrestleMania. Just, wacky stuff there as far as that match. But Bret, Diesel, Royal Rumble 1995 is the top match. Great match. Even though it doesn't have a finish, it is awesome. The chemistry is just off the charts. Just love those two together, I think. The Survivor Series match, maybe just a little bit better, maybe a hair better, because there is a finish. Bret wins there, but this goes to a no contest, and it's still my top Royal Rumble match. That's a non-Royal Rumble. So kind of just goes to show you how great this match is and how much you really need to check it out. So what did I hit on? What did I miss? What did I need to cover the next time? Let me know. Please follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. Check out the website, patreon.com/TMPT Empire, and go to TeePublic, tpublic.com/store/TMPT, and get all your Hogan era, the Hitman, and TMPT gear today. Thank you, everybody, for listening. See you right back here next time. See you then.